Hi there. We love doing live webinars where we can share best practices and topics of interest to you. To learn more and to access the resources referenced in this video, please scroll down to the video description. Without further ado, I'll turn you over to the team.
So thank you for attending today's webinar, Virginia Lunch and Learn, presented by Ancoda. We're going to talk today about how we could just be totally all set for the now September 1st go live of EVV in Virginia. And having been working with Virginia agencies for a long time and seeing the deadlines come and go, I feel very good at this point about everybody being able to be totally ready by August 1st, and that's going to be our key message for today. So without further ado, let me just kind of jump in and welcome the community, and then we'll talk about being ready for EVV with time to spare. So that's kind of our message today. I think I just said August 1st and meant to say September 1st. The reason I said August 1st is because one of the things we're going to talk about in this webinar is that we want everybody to set a hard target for being ready by August 1st. That way we have a month to spare. So I confused myself in that regard, and I apologize for that. So we'll kind of go through with our presentation, and then we'll open it up to the community for any questions that we have, and we'll take it from there. So if you haven't been on one of our webinars before, we really try to, not make these a big commercial for Ancoda. Of course, we'd love for it to be your EVV vendor if we're not, and that kind of thing. But we're really here to welcome the community, and we're open to anybody. It doesn't matter if you use our software or not. And if we can help you, we want to help you. And when we open up the ending, we have some resources that we could share with you about, contacts at the various MCOs or the kind of testing that we've done, and we're happy to share all of that with you. And with that, we'll jump over. So, here in a summary is what I'm calling the recipe for success with EVV. And I've tried to really make it simple into these 4 points. The first is that you need to get your caregivers clocking in. And that is going to be a little bit tricky in some cases, when they've always done it with paper timesheets, but you really need to get them going. And that means, of course, that your scheduling pieces have to be in great shape. And a next thing, we've been kind of harping on this for a while since webinars we've done in since March, about really testing each clearinghouse and MCO pair. So what we really mean is that, and we'll get into more detail on this, but we know that we have to bill Anthem through Tellus. We definitely need to make sure that Tellus is accepting our messages. And let's say that we're billing the other MCOs like Virginia Premier and the others through, let's say, Availity or maybe Waystar. We have to make sure that in that case, either Availity or Waystar is accepting our claims and that kind of thing. And then once that part is done, and then we need to make sure that the MCO itself is accepting our claims, and we have to make sure that, let's say Aetna and Anthem are both accepting our claims if we have clients with Aetna and Anthem and that type of thing. And then what we've been, kind of seeing is that it hasn't been perfect. And of course, we all need our revenue to come into our agency and that type of thing. So, what we've been recommending is that we do our testing, and then as we're successful, we move people over, to EVV and to, kind of the whole new way. So for example, with, first of all, I think that the Anthem and Tellus people are great people and they're making great progress, but I would say that that's been one of the more tricky areas. And we've seen that, for example, a lot of clients are saying, well, let's stick with billing our Anthem claims through Availity for now, and we'll get back to that later. And I think that's, totally appropriate. But what we want to do is, of course, as we get to this last bullet, we want to say we need to get 100% EVV by August 1st. And if we have everything perfect by August 1st, then we'll, of course, be 100% ready for September 1st. And I put this little "You are here" button to kind of show where we feel most of the agencies that we're working with are today. So they have everything. They've established their relationships with Tellus. They've picked their clearinghouse, and they've done all this testing and that kind of thing. And they're moving over to the full billing scenario and that kind of thing. And I guess being, as I said, a little bit more cautious on the Tellus and Anthem side. But this last move of the deadline does give us a good amount of time to get everything perfect. All right, so I remember, I guess I'm gonna expose myself for being a little bit of an older person than I like to come across, but one of the business books earlier in my career in the 90s was this book that was by a guy named Stephen Covey, and he said, let's begin with the end in mind. And so let me just kind of jump there and say, well, what does the end mean? And I've tried to make it as simple as possible. So the end means, in this case, to be fully ready for September 1st, we need to be doing EVV billing with all the MCOs plus straight Medicaid. And just to elaborate on that, that means that, not only do we need to be billing and let's say sending our claims to Availity for 5 MCOs and our messages to Tellus for Anthem and that kind of thing, but it also has to have all of the EVV attribution in there. So we need, they've changed the claim message so it now includes caregiver information, location information, and and the exact start and end times of the visits. And that's what we need to be able to do. And then, of course, our good friend, the DMAS 90, has been something that we've always created as our evidence of work and what we used in the past. But now we don't need to always have a paper DMAS 90. As a matter of fact, we're going away from the paper, and we're going to be submitting all of our information for billing without a DMAS 90. But of course, we need to be able to create that on demand, and we'll talk through that. So those are the key things. Of course, there's lots of other things that we'd like to be able to do very nicely, but those are the most important. I guess we'll just leave it at that. All right, so let's talk about the players, and I've alluded to some of this already and maybe should have brought this slide first. But in general, what we're finding is, well, we know that, for example, for our straight Medicaid situation, that we have to bill that through Conduit. And we also know definitively that Anthem is only going to accept claims through Tellus starting at this point on September 1st. And then for our other 5 MCOs that are listed here, we need to be able to submit our claims through a clearinghouse. And like I said, the ones that we've worked with off the top of my head are Availity, Waystar, Change Healthcare, and there might be some others that we're working with as well. But bottom line is a clearinghouse is somewhere that you send the claims, and then of course they have the relationships with the payers and they send it over there and that type of thing. So we know that, to kind of work in our Virginia ecosystem with the 6 MCOs and straight Medicaid, that we need to be able to bill in these 3 different fashions. All right, so here, this is a lot of information on one slide. And if anybody would like to have this information, we have a very nice, PDF that's a prettier rendition of it, and we could send you. And what you could do, and I should have said this earlier, is that in this this meeting that we're in, it's called GoToWebinar, which is the technology. There should be a place where you could go to chat or questions, and you could just say right in there, hey, could you please send me kind of the contact list for the different MCOs, and we're happy to do that. And if you see any other resources that we talk about during this and you'd like those, just put it in there. And also, I could add this as well, is that we're going to open this to the community for questions down the road. But if you do have any questions, you don't have to hold off. You could just type them in that little question panel now. And Sarah, who is on the line, will be monitoring all that. And we'll be ready for that in a little bit. But just a little trick, if you're using a PC, there's usually a little tool called the snipping tool on your PC. So if you just want to take a screenshot of this and you go in the corner of your PC and you type snipping tool, you might be able to grab a screenshot. But I guess I've said that a little late because I'm going to jump off the slide. So if you need it, just put the question in and we'll get it to you. But this is how to reach all of the different MCOs. All right, so this is kind of jumping to the bottom of the page. This is something that we've been talking about in earlier webinars, and we're pretty much through with all of our clients, except of course for the ones that are signing up in the last few days and weeks and that kind of thing. We get through this pretty quickly, but we definitely want to make sure that your flow is that you of course are delivering your care with your EVV, And then for each MCO, you need to make sure that the clearinghouse accepts your claim and that the claim is then paid by the MCO. And we built this little tool that has all the MCOs listed and indicate, this is the client that we're testing with, and and then we just kind of keep all the notes in here. Okay, we submitted this, then we got a note back from Availity that something didn't go through, and we figured out why, and we kind of keep track of all that. So if you'd like this type of a test plan and you haven't done that yet in your agency, we can send this to you. All right, so let's kind of talk about the billing related techie stuff. And I am a techie guy, but I promise not to get too deeply into this. But just some of the things that affect us now in the EVV world are, first, that we have to bill each visit individually. So historically, in the way that things have worked, is that it's usually the combination of a client and a service and a date of service all gets billed together. So if you have, let's say, a morning client who's getting personal care and they're also getting personal care in the evening, that you would combine all that time in those units and send it through as one claim. But now in the era of EVV, since we're providing our caregivers exact arrival time and exact departure time, we do send the visits individually. And for those of you who are on the billing side of your companies, the other thing that happens if you ever submit 2 claims for the same day is Medicaid usually says, hey, I'm not going to pay you for that. You've already billed for that service on that day. And given that now that we have to send them individually, there's something that we need to put into the claim, and it's called the 76 modifier. So if, and I might not have this exactly right, but if the personal care is like a service code of T1019, we would then submit it as T1019 76, and that would basically say, hey, I am on purpose sending a second visit through for today for this person because I did in fact service them 2 times. So that's what that part is about. And then there's this matter, of course, in Virginia of incomplete hours and how we need to deal with that. So Virginia historically has only accepted and paid for full hours of care. And so if somebody, like let's say that somebody is scheduled, just to make the example, for 12 and a half or, let's say 13 hours a week, and you schedule them for 2.5 hours a day, then the way it needs to work in Virginia is like on that first day, they work 2.5 hours, but you can only bill and you hold on to that extra 30 minutes. And then the next day, they've worked another 2.5 hours, and it would, if they worked that complete time, it would say, well, I have my 2.5 hours from today, but I also have a half an hour from yesterday, and I could put them together and bill for 3 hours. So that's how things work. For the moment, by the way, Anthem has gone with a different decision, which says in the world of Anthem, if the visit is 30 minutes or longer, they're going to round it up to a full hour, and if it's 29 minutes or fewer, they're going to round it down. So that is a little bit of a difference that is in place, at least for the moment. And I'm not sure if that's going to change or not. We'll keep you posted as we learn more. But the other thing about Anthem through Tellus is, if you're new and you're saying, hey, yeah, I really do need to get on board with this whole EVV thing now. Billing Anthem through Tellus is just a very different mechanism from a technology perspective. And so, make sure that if you're doing your own software, or if you, maybe have used some software that hasn't really gotten on board with everything going on in Virginia, that I'd say if you haven't started figuring out how to bill Tellus yet, even with 2.5 months until September 1st, it's it takes some time. I mean, it's some programming and it's a lot to learn. I do have another slide on Tellus that I'll get to in a minute, or a few slides actually. And then the other MCOs, they process, kind of claims in the historical sense. So we've always sent what's called an 837 claim, and that's that, not meant for humans to read, gobbledygook looking message, but it has a very specific format meant for the computer to read that explains, that I'm billing for this Medicaid ID for this person at this address with this diagnosis code, and this is the service, and this is the number of units, and now in the EVV world, this is the exact arrival time, exact departure time, and the caregiver and the and the location. So all that information is going there. It's just that that's what I kind of said here. The supplemental or the EVV supplement has to go in there. And one thing we did notice, and a lot of the agencies we're working with work with Availity, and there's one thing we did notice with them is that they need a special sequence code that goes in that 837. But that's the only special note that we have on them. Other than that, you know, Availity, Waystar, pretty straightforward in terms of how the claims go. All right, so these are actually some nice slides that, and by the way, Tellus every Tuesday, so that would include today, beginning at 3 p.m. for the month of June, are doing webinars where they're kind of coaching people through, and I brought some highlights from that. But you know, if you are still working through Tellus, that's a good meeting to go become part of. They actually scheduled these, you know, kind of all leading up to what was the June 30th deadline, and I presume they're keeping them in place, and then they might take July off and then resume in August. That's what they did the last time the deadline was switched. But anyway, this is a Tellus process flow, but you know, it really kind of talks a little bit about how everything works. So you do your EVV in your system, and then it goes to the Tellus provider portal, and then they have a rule base that goes and says, well, how do I decide whether this claim is acceptable or not? And that, of course, you know, needs a good start time and an end time, and it matches, and the hours are right, and the authorization's right, and all those types of things. And then based on all of that, they either characterize each claim, and in this case, when I say a claim, each individual visit is going to say, okay, it either matched, everything looked good, and I'm going to send it through to the clearinghouse, or it didn't match and didn't look good, and at that point you need to, you know, resolve the issue. One little part that's not shown on this flow is that when your EVV system sends information to Tellus, they also do, well, they, you know, our experience has been that they process the data, and you could see it in the Tellus portal in about an hour and a half on average. But then the next morning, you would get a little file back that's either going to say, hey, everything, you know, matched fine, or if there was some kind of an exception, they'll let you know. And a tricky thing, and this is, I probably should have made a slide just on this, but you know, bottom line is, like, let's say you send 100 claims to Tellus. If something like the Medicaid number is wrong or the date of birth is wrong, that those visits aren't even going to get there. So you might send, like, you know, 100 visits, and then you see, well, I have 80 matched and I have 5 unmatched. And then you're saying, well, what happened to the other 15? Well, the little piece that's not on the picture here is that they do send you a file back and say, hey, I see you sent me 15 visits for Joey Smith. We don't know Joey Smith, or, you know, we couldn't match the Medicaid number for Joey Smith. So that's an important thing, again, if you're doing this on your own, that you know. But, you know, I thought this was a good way of explaining how things go in the in that whole world. All right, so this next thing, and again, a screenshot of this one, and or I could, I'll ask Sarah to make sure to capture this in case anybody asks in the chat, so we could send it. But this is, these are the contacts for Tellus, and again, I mean, we're not trying to pick on Tellus, we're just, you know, explaining that since Tellus is a little bit different, that you need to, you know how to get things done. So if you haven't registered for Tellus yet, here's where to do it, and there's training. And then this is the support line, and as you'll see on the next slide as well, there's, you know, this is very, very important, because one of the things you need to do to make sure that everything's perfectly good for September 1st, and again, our goal of having everything done by August 1st, is that you need to make sure that all of your authorizations are in Tellus correctly from Anthem, and that hasn't always been the case. And then they have, okay, and then look at that, they have this missing authorizations at fortellus.com, so you could write to them and get special support on that exact issue. And then there's some, you know, other numbers and things here. But let me jump to that slide here, is that, you know, as I explained, Anthem authorizations need to be in Tellus for the claims to match. And even if, you know, you've been given the authorization from the state and you've entered it in your system perfectly and that kind of thing, I mean, that's still not 100% guarantee, unfortunately, that that your claim is going to go through, because there have been some issues. So you fill out this this support form, and there they have a missing authorization sheet, and they'll be in contact with Anthem, and they'll get it taken care of for you. And then they're saying that, bottom line is that they're saying that you should look for a 7-day turnaround. So this is, I kind of explained in the beginning why some of our customers are continuing to, bill their Anthem claims through Tellus for the short term, is because they're still working through this process and making sure that all of the authorizations are matched and that type of thing. And keep in mind here that it does take, here they talk about 5 days after you've gone through these steps, or 7 days in total, to kind of get through this process and make sure everything's matched in Tellus for Anthem. All right, so with that, I'm gonna just go in a different direction and just give you a very quick, demo of software. And so without further ado, I guess what I need to do is now, let's see, the way that my GoToMeeting is, I think I need to take this down. Okay, fantastic. So just kind of checking with Sarah. So Sarah, are you seeing my Encoder screen?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. All right, so what we'll do is, now let me go back to the slide for a quick second, which is a little trickier because of the way the webinar is set up. But what we'll do is we'll just put in a client, we'll give them an authorization, a care plan, a schedule, we'll do some EVV, and then we'll do some, and then we'll show how billing works, and we'll just kind of try to get all that done in just the next few minutes very, very quickly. And with that, I need to escape out of here one more time. And we'll go back. Okay, so I've already pre-filled this screen with a make-believe client called Valerie, Virginia, and I have this address in Springfield, Virginia, which is actually where I used to live, at this very house when I lived in Virginia. And we could go through, there's lots of other information we could put in. So, who referred them and who are their family members and all that type of thing. But just to kind of keep the demo flowing, you could also add attachments. But I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to put Valerie, Virginia in the system and get them all set. So when I hit submit there, it goes and it creates this record for Valerie, Virginia, which of course has everything that you've entered. And just to kind of follow the flow, we'll put in an authorization first. And so here, let's say that we are going to be authorized from the beginning of June. For now, I'll just make it till the end of July. But usually, of course, our authorizations are much longer. And we'll say that we're going to get personal care. So let's go for MCO personal care. And by the way, I mean, we have a set of configurations. So if you use our system and you want to get set up, we could, you'll kind of have everything, your DMAS 90, DMAS 97, all your care plan items, all these visit types will be in there and that kind of thing. But for now, let's say this is a 7-day-a-week case. And we're going to do, let's say, 3 hours a day, and we'll kind of put in a weekly authorization. So 3 hours, that would be 21 hours times 4 units, that would be 84 units. So we'll put that in for our authorization. And then it does a little calculator for you. So it did it backwards what I did and said it's, in fact, yes, 3 hours a day. So that's all set. And then most of our customers like to just schedule on the calendar. So if we're actually starting to deliver service to this person today, we would just go to today, which is the 16th, then click on it. And of course, since we're in Valerie, Virginia's record, it knows that that's who we want to schedule service for. And then here, I'm just going to grab their authorization, which is kind of linked in now. And since it said I grabbed the authorization for personal care, it set the visit type for that. And I'm just going to stick with the recommended 3 hours. And here we'll say that we should have started this visit, let's say at 12:15 p.m. today. And of course, it calculates that we're going to go out through 3:15. And for caregiver, I was looking, and we actually have some openings with Angelina Jolie. So she's going to be our caregiver for today. And then just instead of going ahead and creating that visit right now, I'm going to set this up to repeat, every day of the week starting today. And by default, it's going to go out until the end of the authorization, which in this case is out through 7/31. So we're going to go and put that in for all the 7 days. Then we'll go ahead and create these visits, and that'll be that. Okay, so the next thing, of course, we need is a care plan in the system. And just I know this will take a little bit longer, but the best way to do that, of course, is that we'd want to do it with a DMAS 97. So that's what we want to do. So here, going into the client documents, and I'm just going to say, hey, let's just grab a DMAS 97, and I believe that this is a newer one. This one says Respite on it, but that's kind of that. And and here what you'll notice is that you're probably saying to yourself, well, it looks like a DMAS 97, but it doesn't look exactly like a DMAS 97. So one of the things that we encountered along the way was that there are certain things that the DMAS 97 doesn't quite cover, and so we supplemented with those. So first of all, you might want to say that this person needs bathing, dressing, toileting, but you might want some additional information about how to do their bath or how to help them and that type of thing. So we added that. We also we kind of have this concept that it's great to have a plan of care that says what days to do things, but we generally recommend that you basically use this item and put things on the care plan, and then you specify the days in addition to that. And I guess a scenario to explain that is, like, let's say that we have Monday, Wednesday, Friday care, and then there's a Monday holiday. If you just set the task for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then it's a Monday holiday and the person goes and does the visit on Tuesday instead, then then you end up sort of losing, or the caregiver gets there and says, hey, how come I can't report my tasks today? And the reason is that they were only set for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So so here I am on a Tuesday, and I'm just clicking the Monday, Wednesday, Fridays on all of these, and that kind of thing. And but even though I'm going to clock in on Tuesday, it's going to let me do that task. And then of course we have all these other pieces. A couple other things we did change is that your DMAS 97 only has meal preparation, whereas your DMAS 90 has breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we split that out. And we also added a place so you could indicate PRN only tasks. So a lot of times on respite, on a respite visit, you could do whatever is needed on a respite visit. I guess I'll just kind of leave it at that for now. And we could capture signatures here and things like that. So I'm doing a very half-hearted job at filling a DMAS 97, and it is gonna save it for me and that type of thing. But of course, I would need to do a better job on that in real life. But what I do want to show is that if I now go into the care plan for Valerie Virginia, that she does have a care plan that's active from today, and it does include those tasks that we selected on the DMAS 97. So I guess the point of this is that if you start from the DMAS 97, and that drives what's in your caregiver care plan, you're going to be all good to go, and you're never going to have a mismatch or a missed expectation on what was authorized by kind of the person setting the care plan and the actual person delivering the care plan. All right, so with that, I'm going to jump to another screen, which is a schedule board, and I'm going to hit the refresh on it because I had brought it up a minute ago. But what we'll see is that these Angelina Jolie visits will now pop in for Valerie Virginia starting today. And all right, and then I could clock in a variety of different ways, and one of them, of course, is the voice telephony. So I'll do that for Valerie. And give me 1 second. What I have to do here is dial this particular toll-free number. And if you're, if you have an agency with Ancode, you'll have your own, dedicated phone number for your agency. But let me put this in here. So I'm going to do 855-671. Okay, 1030. Okay, and then I'm just going to hold this phone up to my speaker so you can hear it.
Please enter your user ID followed by #.
All right, what do I need? 102.
Please enter your PIN followed by #. To select Valerie Virginia 12:15 p.m. arrival, press 1. Press arrival time is 12:30 p.m. You should complete your visit at 3:30 p.m. Your arrival has been recorded. Thank you.
Okay, so anyway, that's how the arrival gets reported with telephony, and that's what it sounds like for the caregiver. And I'm hitting that refresh again, and what we're going to see is I should have pointed out that there's all these statistics of what's scheduled for the week and things like that, and you can click on those, and then there's this gives you the color coding. So we see that we have visits arrived, some completed, and so on and so forth. All right, so the next thing I want to do, and it's going to take me a second to set this up, is that we have we also have this other arrive visit that's on the screen for let's see, for Rachel. And that one's actually already clocked in, as we see, at 11:27. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually, the reason I had a delay is I'm just bringing, this is my phone, which happens to be an Android phone. This is where I just dialed the telephony for the other caregiver. But I'm going to go back to my home screen, and I'm going to go into the caregiver app here for Rachel. So right now I'm actually driving, even though you see it on my screen, I'm driving from my phone. So this is the visit list for Cameron for today. And this would have been more before the visit starts, but here's where you can see the details of the visit, the phone number to dial, and if you click on that, it takes you to the phone, and you could get turn-by-turn directions and that type of thing. But this person's already arrived, so we're just going to go now into the departure. And what's kind of interesting on this visit is it's a respite visit, and we don't really have any care plan items, kind of scheduled on the respite, but we do have the ability to add items. So here I'm going to go and say, oh, well, what did I do on this respite visit? Well, I did help with the toileting. Let me add that. And I did, oops, sorry about that. All right, and I did, maybe I also helped with ambulation, and I, hopefully not, but had to do some wound care and that type of thing. So right there, I could just add my items. So that's, that's how the PRN items work. And that's about that. And then here, for our DMAS 90, of course, we need signatures. So I guess I'm not really Ken, I'm Valerie. So I'll say that I'm Valerie here. And then down here, I am Cameron. So, so I get a signature from the client and the caregiver. And I could, I could put in notes if I did answer any of the DMAS 90 questions about, change in patient condition. I'd have to report the concerns on those. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and submit this, and it's just confirming my time. And so I'm kind of good to go on that visit being completed. And it's going to get everything closed out on the back end. And then, so I could just keep doing it on my phone, but if I go back to my home screen, I'm all set. All right, so that's kind of that. And if let me just kind of do the refresh on the screen here, we're going to find that, this visit is complete, which is great. Let's go ahead and complete the other visit for, in this case, Valerie, Virginia. And since we started that one on telephony, I'll do that ending on telephony as well. And here we go.
Please enter your user ID followed by £. Please enter your PIN followed by. To select Valerie, Virginia departure, press 1. Departure time is 12:34 p.m. Your expected departure time is not until 3:30 p.m. If you would like to complete your fully scheduled time, please hang up and dial back in 2 hours 56 minutes. Please report the value or status of the following items. Complete partial bath if complete, press 1. If not, assist with toileting if complete, press 1. If not, transferring if complete, press 1. If not, supervision if complete, press 1. If not needed today, press 2. If client refused, press 3. Do you have care plan item codes to report? Press 1 for yes. Press 2 for no. If care plan item status are acceptable, press 1 to re-enter. Are there any concerns you'd like to share with the office about the patient's condition? Press 1 for yes or 2 for no. Your departure has been successfully reported. Thank you.
Okay, so bottom line is we went through the process both with the telephony and with the mobile app, and as you can see, it takes a little bit more time on the telephony because we have to ask all the questions and that type of thing as we go. But here I hit the refresh again real quickly, and we have both this visit for Rachel and this visit for Valerie are complete. But unfortunately, they both don't look good. They have these red magnifying glasses, meaning that something isn't right about the visit. And of course, we're not going to be surprised in either case. So here we go into the Rachel visit. It's going to bring up all the details. It's going to show that we were scheduled from 11:30 to 2. We got there a little early, but we left quite early. And while we wanted to be, right at the address, here I am up in the state of Massachusetts in Boston, and I was 406 miles away. So we got a mapping error there. And by the way, of course, this is much more relevant when it's much closer. But if you want to, you could actually kind of see exactly what's going on and where your caregiver was when they were clocking in. So in my case, I clocked in from here for a visit way down there, that kind of thing. But again, it's much more useful in the case where you're right in the neighborhood. But then kind of from there, what we could do is we could say, okay, well, yeah, we did a short visit on purpose, and we're going to we're going to excuse this, or make the exception. Here you can mark each of these items as resolved on an individual basis if you wish, but the most important thing is that up here you do have to approve the visit. And what we did here was I have these codes, and these codes correspond to Tellus, although we kind of recommend our customers, hey, let's use these for all the MCOs. But bottom line is, I could say, well, the problem was malfunctioning mobile application or that kind of thing. And with that, I could go ahead and and I could approve the visit. Okay, so this is that's kind of the approval process. And and I guess an important thing to point out in the context of Tellus is that if you do your screening ahead of time and you say, hey, yes, there was an EVV error, but I've corrected it, and you have the correction code, then then they will match the claim for you. You don't have to do other work. And then I won't go through on this one, but here it's saying, hey, you were off by 2 hours and 56 minutes, and you didn't dial from the right phone number, and so there's other errors there. I guess what I could do on this one is let me just pretend. Of course, there's if anything ever happened like this in real life, there'd be an audit trail over here in the history of who changed the visit and that type of thing. But but here I'm going to change the time just so I have some billable time on it, and then I'll again go ahead and let's see, looks like it didn't like the way I formatted that. Sorry about that. Can't talk and type at the same time, I guess, is my problem. All right, let's see if that works this time. Okay, perfect. So we have that updated, and then we'll go ahead and we'll approve this. And then we'll get to our last step and then open it up to the community. So we'll talk about what was our approval reason here. And so that's all going to be approved. If I go back to my, my overarching visit schedule screen, I'm going to see that these red magnifying glasses are going to go away, which is going to indicate that we're good to go for billing and for payroll. And so with that, we're like I said, we are good to go. And so we'll jump over to billing. I'm just checking all my little notes here. All right, so if we go into billing and we say, let's go ahead and do billing for everything that was completed, just to keep it simple, we're going to go ahead and say, make me my bills for everything that was completed today, and we expect to see 2 visits, and there they are. So we're going to go ahead and and create the invoices here. So in our system, we've done this for bigger agencies. Sometimes when there are multiple billers, we've seen that that multiple billers will try to bill at the same time. And so we actually, what happens here is we send this to the background, and then we make sure that all the billing happens sequentially. And so it does kind of beg the question on a very short situation like this one, where I'm only trying to bill 2 things. It does add some time to the process, but it kind of keeps us safe for when we get bigger and make sure that we don't bill or pay anything twice in a row. All right, what I'm going to do here is, I bet that these are probably there already. I'm just going to jump ahead to the screen and say, what do I have corresponding to these visit dates that is billed? We'll see if these do appear or not. But one thing I did want to point out on this screen that's important, in addition to seeing the bills completed, it looks like they're still chugging along, is that this is the place right on our screen where, you know, it's not only where you would get your claim. So yeah, let me kind of explain as we go here. So the way that it works with us. So one of the, you know, I mean, I feel like I've been picking on Tellus. It's not intentional, but one of the nice things about Tellus is as soon as your invoices are complete, they automatically get sent to Tellus, and you don't have to do anything. So that's great. So now we see that these are complete and they're going to go through to Tellus. And like I said, within an hour and a half, they are going to, you know, you'll be able to go on your Tellus portal and see if they matched or not. But then the next morning, you're going to get this file right here. And we always recommend when you go into your billing screen that you look at these import files. And if there was a problem, you know, certainly take care of the problem. But then there's a little way that you could dismiss the message once you've read it. So that's kind of how we pull things together. Just to tell the complete story, the way that it works for the other clearinghouses is we actually would go ahead and make the claim here, you know, kind of physically in it. So here it's actually making me a claim file, and it's bringing it up on a different screen. So the reason it actually brought it up, it made me a couple different claims because I had different MCOs. And let's see, just trying to get this open. Let's look for, let me open this with Notepad. 1 second, it's on my other screen, but I'll bring it over in a second. All right, so here, this is what the actual claim looks like, and I can, you know, kind of wrap it around. And again, it's not meant for us to read, but you can kind of read in between the lines that this is for Valerie Virginia, and that, you know, this is her, you know, her diagnosis code of hypertension, and her, you know, and she has a T1019 for $13.70 for 4 units. So this is what the claim looks like when it gets sent to, you know, let's say a Validity or Waystar or Change Healthcare. And then in the case of Tellus, again, the nice thing is it goes automatically, and then they tell you right here the status of it. All right, so kind of with that, I took a little longer on the demo than I had intended, but let me jump back to the slides. We are pretty much finished with our content and ready to open it to the community. I just kind of have this one, you know, sort of final set of thoughts. One is that, you know, September 1st, I mean, it's, I guess, 10 weeks away, but it is really just right around the corner. And if your agency hasn't really gotten started yet, you know, we highly recommend that now's the time to get started. And, you know, and I guess and this is not scientific, but I would say that today that the MCOs and their readiness and the clearinghouses are, you know, it's really around 90%, you know, and actually that's why I'm excited about the move to September 1st, because I'm sure that, you know, all these little, you know, issues that are being worked out, let's say with the Anthem and Tellus, or with, you know, any of the other, you know, MCOs and clearinghouses are, I think now there's plenty of time. And as I said in the beginning of the webinar, is, you know, it's going to take hard work and partnership, but, you know, we really recommend that you move everybody over and get there by August 1st in order to, you know, make sure that you're 100% ready for September 1st. And we feel really good. So with that, let me open it to the community for other best practices, questions, anything that came in. So let me turn it over to Sarah, who's our Chief Operating Officer at ANCODA, and see if we had any questions or comments that we might be able to address.
Yeah, so we do here. So like the example you showed, if we have to do an approval like that, do we need a paper timesheet to match it?
Ah, right. Okay, so you don't need paper timesheets anymore. So you do need to have the history. And one thing I meant to show, by the way, is I could jump in and I could show you what like a DMAS 90 looks like for, you know, so let's say for today's visits, so we'll choose today's date and we'll search for Valerie. So this one, well, actually, who was the other one? I think it was Rachel Robinson. All right, so this is what the DMAS 90 is going to look like, you know, here produced in the system. But I guess, I mean, you know, the answer to your question is that you don't need to, you know, get a signed timesheet anymore. And this one has the signatures that, you know, the bad signatures that I made on the mobile app of the client and the caregiver. And this would be part of your record. So thanks for reminding me to show the DMAS 90 as well. What's next, Sarah?
So this is regarding the DMAS 90. What do you do on the DMAS 90 for telephony?
Oh, that's a great question. So if I do go into, I think on Valerie we use telephony. And so we always work, anytime we have a question like this, we talk to the state office, and usually that guy named Tim is really helpful, and and the whole team. I'm sure you guys know these individuals, but in the case of a DMAS 90 with telephony, then the guidance from the state is that you need to use this exact phrase. It says, this is telephony and/or fob client. The unique identifier for this client is, I have to make it bigger because I don't see very well. And so this serves as the electronic signature is basically what it says. So that's the case when we're doing telephony, and that's how you get that done. So great question. Anything else?
Great, thank you. The last two questions are about just getting started with Ancoda. So how much does it cost, and how long does it take to get up and running?
Okay, so the way that Ancoda charges, we have a fee per client per month. And and if you're a small agency, I mean, the minimum is $99 a month, and but then it's generally the list price is like $10 per client per month. So so let's say that you had 20 clients, that would be $200. And if you only had 5 clients, let's say, then it would be $99 because we have that $99 minimum. And I think the second part of that question was about how long does it take? And since Sarah's our Chief Operating Officer and she leads our project implementations, I'm going to turn that over to her.
Great, thank you. So so basically, it doesn't take too long to get things moving in the system. What our main focus is that we have you all set for billing. So we'll be asking for crucial information that we need to send over to Tellus, and gathering what other type of clearinghouses you would be using. So that's the critical piece there. Otherwise, our team is very familiar with the state of Virginia, and we can typically get you up and running in a couple weeks.
Fantastic. All right, great question. And was that the last question?
That's all the questions we have so far.
All right, fantastic. So if anybody's being shy and you have another question, let us know. But other than that, I guess I did take more time on the demo than I had intended anyway, so we could just kind of keep moving on. So, one thing is we're here to help. So Sarah and her team have actually created a community site called ahomecarecommunity.com. And there's a forum there and also information about events like this. And, if any of the things we brought up, like, hey, could you get me those Tellus contacts or share that information about how to get, my Anthem claims moved over into Tellus, or you can hit us up, email us at either support@ancoda.com or sales@ancoda.com. And we're a family here, so if you send it to either one, we'll help you with either. But if you don't have a vendor yet for your EVV, we're of course very happy to get you going. And and with the move out to September 1st, there should be no problem getting you fully live and billing and compliant by then. But don't wait until August 20th, because then it'll be a little bit.